Good morning, folks. Good afternoon, or whenever you're going to watch this video. Today we have a bit of a different topic for you. Usually you don't see me do any news content on ESO because I think, well, you can just read this stuff up for yourself. But today I figured this is kind of a very important thing for every ESO player. You might have noticed that yesterday the Studio Director's Letter 2025 and beyond has been released. There was also a German stream yesterday. I'm a bit confused about the fact that it was just a German stream on the Bethesda DE main channel. So there was no English stream to that, and there was a drop available that I've gotten. So the NA players kind of went without anything. So that was a bit odd to me. But anyway, I've watched that stream and I've got some background information from that and a few from the forums as well. So we can today go through this letter and go about lifting some misconceptions perhaps and just get a good understanding of what's gonna come in 2025 and beyond that, in case you're just too lazy to read this stuff for yourself or you just want to listen to something in the background. This is perfect for you. So we are starting with reading this stuff out, you know? All right, so this was written by, I kind of forgot this name, something Matt. I think it's the, probably some CEO. It just says Matt. Okay, I'm not quite sure who that is. Maybe you can enlighten me in the comments. But let's go. Welcome to everyone in the Elder Scrolls Online community. As the year is drawing to a close, I'm going to take some time to walk you through my thoughts on 2024 and look ahead to 2025 and how ESO will be evolving to meet the changing needs of the community. First, a few notes about 2024. I probably say this every year, but 2024's ESO content was among my favorite. I'm not quite sure what he means by that, but let's keep going. I loved the vibe and story of Gold Road. And now that Home Tours is allowing me to see so many other people's homes, I'm seriously considering making Merivine Estate my main house. Although it will take a lot to unseat me from Mornorth Keep. 2024 showed that we are still creating wonderful content for all our players. We ended the year with 2 new companions. I am currently adventuring with Cyrodiil, although I'm early in my journey with him, as well some fun tweaks to Battlegrounds, which is arguable, and much more. I look back on 2024's content and updates, and I'm very satisfied with our story, content, and systems updates. Okay, so here's my first thought about this thing. This is, it doesn't seem sincere, you know, it doesn't seem sincere at all to me. There has been so much criticism about the Battlegrounds. Even I, as a PvE player, have noticed this kind of stuff, and I queued for some Battlegrounds, and it doesn't take a PvP player to notice that they have major issues. Even me, as a PvE player, noticed that right away. So just complimenting yourself for the whole year and basically say that you did so many good things, I don't know, it isn't drawing the full picture, and this is just marketing speech in my opinion, and it's a bit unfortunate that it seems so unsincere. But let's keep going, shall we? Yeah, there we go. It was wonderful to spend time with fans in person in April at our Amsterdam 10-year anniversary event, and for team members, sadly I could not make it, to attend the German ESO Tavern in July. I've seen the, this is not in the letter right now, I've seen the, in the German stream they have been talking, or he has been talking about the event, and he showed some videos that have been produced for that event, and I was actually kind of surprised how insane it must have been. At least it looked really cool. They had a fireworks show and all that stuff. Seems to have been really cool. Unfortunately, he also said that the next event that will probably be around in July, we should see an announcement in tomorrow. He said we will see that tomorrow, but he gave like a little spoiler, a hint that it will be in July in Thuringia. I think that's the English word for Thüringen. And he said that it will not be as big as before. He didn't give any reasons as to why, which I find curious, but that's the state we are in. We had many other smaller regional community events, some of the first time in their territories, sprinkled throughout the year, where fans of the game got to meet one another and share stories about their shared time in Tamriel. And now it is time to look forward, which will comprise most of this end-of-year message. Change is a constant, especially in gaming. The gaming industry changes, player habits change, other games come and go. In fact, change has been constant since ESO launched in 2014. We have been able to keep up with the times, make hard decisions and big changes when it was time to make them. Looking back on all the changes that have gotten us here, it is pretty clear that we have generally made the right decisions at the right times for our game. And now we are looking forward to 2025 and how we can change ESO to keep it relevant, awesome and compelling. So yeah, obviously they made some great choices in the past with that one Tamriel update, for instance, that kind of saved the game in my opinion. Without that update, I would probably not play it. Yeah, but since I'm only playing for a year, you guys are better in assessing that statement, so I'm letting that for you to go wild in the comments. Since 2017, we have released amazing content and systems every year. Again, the self-complementing thing, but always on the same schedule. This annual cadence pushed the team to focus on short deadlines every June, where all types of content, systems, content, zones, etc. had to be completed at the same time and has not left us much time for experimentation or thinking about doing things differently. That's gonna be interesting now. At the end of the last year, we gave a slight heads up that we would be shaking things up. Our lead times are so long that we were already planning for some of these changes back then. And I'm very happy to say that starting in 2025, you'll see new ideas and ways of launching content start rolling out. Okay, so this is the point where basically the whole starting innuendo and marketing speech kind of ends, because now we're getting into the interesting stuff. Because this is kind of the huge news right now that we will get to right now. Turning the page on chapters. We have been incredibly successful with our strong annual chapter releases, starting with Morrowind in 2017 up through Gold Road just 6 months ago. Zone design and quest content is at the core of every Elder Scrolls game, as our annual chapter release model highlighted. We will still do lots of story content, but now, looking into 2024, we need to concentrate on different types of content to support all types of ESO players. So, we are putting chapters aside and will be focusing on new types of content and a new release philosophy. More on that below. As 2025 will be a transition year for new content, we are going to have new zone-based content launch in 2025, but you'll have to wait until April to hear the specifics about how it is different. Stay tuned. So, yeah, we don't get chapters anymore. This is basically the announcement in this part of the letter. There will be no more annual updates with a big chunk of update with new content, but they will space it out bits by bit. They will talk about this in just a second, a little more. And when they say, as 2025 will be a transition year for new content, this is basically a nice way of saying there is not much coming in 2025. I'm not on board with the doomerism that we've been seeing on Reddit, but this is crying out to me that this is basically what it says. As 2025 will be a transition year for new content. This is basically the subtext of this. I would be very surprised if this is not an accurate interpretation of this sentence. Let's keep going. Introducing seasons. Over the course of 2025, we will be moving more towards a seasonal content model and away from launching massive content updates once a year, as we did with chapters. We will be talking much more about this in the future, but in 2025, expect to see named seasons of 3 or 6 months duration with a mix of themed story content, events, store items, dungeons, and more. And this is the point where people were very, very concerned when they read the seasonal content bit. And it has also already been clarified in the forums that this does not mean that it is a time-limited content stuff. I guess us ESO players are very cautious about even more FOMO tactics in the game, as the Crown Store is already filled with FOMO. But the forum said, and also the German stream I have seen yesterday, made it clear that this is permanent content. So when we get like seasonal content, what they say, what they mean by this, that's what the German stream clarified, is seasonal essentially means that they put similar content into one batch and release that. That's basically the season. So you have like a season of a story content and a season of dungeon content, perhaps. I'm just putting this out of my butthole. But presumably that's the case. So this is what they mean by seasonal. Obviously, us players have been burnt with this word for quite a bit. There have been people have been thinking that this is probably some battle pass or something like this. The most doomerism people have already also said that this is maintenance mode for ESO, but I wouldn't go this far. Obviously, the trust in ZeniMax has been, let's put it, what's a euphemistic way to put it, has been strained. Has been strained in the past years. So people are more skeptic about this kind of stuff, and I get it. But for now, this is what they said, that seasonal content is permanent, and seasonal just means that the different themes of the content are batched together and released. So that's a very important thing to clarify, in my opinion. 2025 will be a mix of old and new as we move to the dev team towards creating smaller bite-sized pieces of content. We will still have some larger items that we've been working on for over a year, which you'll see launch as well. Freeing up the dev team from needing to adhere to a strict annual cycle means we will be able to have teams launch content when it is ready throughout the year and not work to a date in June. This will let us focus on a greater variety of content spread over the year. This supports the new seasons model and will enable us to release content, updates, fixes and systems in a more efficient manner. Yeah, I can't see behind the scenes in that regard, but this whole bit also reads to me as trying to find an explanation why this is a good thing. But I don't want to judge on this too much because I'm not a developer, so I have mostly no clue about this kind of stuff, so I don't want to judge anything that I have zero clue about. But I don't know, something seems off in that paragraph. I don't know what it is, but maybe you can put it into words better than I can as a non-native. A new focus on change and experimentation. We have been hearing from you, the community, that we need to experiment more to shake things up and not be so predictable. The game needs new and different types of content and for long-standing feedback to be addressed. We have already started on some ideas that will be tested in 2025. These systems and ideas will be clearly marked as experiments in patch notes and are ideas that may or may not be fleshed out into full game systems. With our new focus on breaking up content into seasons and away from years, it gives us time to do these experiments and changes. And this is great. This is something, when I read this is great. This is very, very good for the game in my opinion. It has been criticized that the chapter releases are always so formulaic. You get these delves, you get these 2 public dungeons, and even in the German stream they mentioned that this is the case. And I also like this experiment thing. I like that they want to experiment thing even when it turns out that it doesn't really fit the game or it doesn't work well. I'd rather have them make mistakes than not do anything. So I really commend this, that they are trying to do this. This is, if they really keep going with this is, I believe, a great change and a way to give ESO a direction that makes it dynamic and makes it flexible to the needs of the players. And this is great. I think this is basically one of the best announcements in this letter. There's a few more that we will get to that are pretty great actually, but let's keep going for now. Here are some of the ideas that we are working on, some of which you may have seen, some of which you may see on the live service as tests in 2025 and beyond. Some of these tests will be some of these will be tests and some will be improvements based on player feedback. And here's the first thing for the PvP crowd. We need to seriously address Cyrodiil performance. Our ambitious goal is to return it to the concurrency levels we supported in 2014. So we will be experimenting with a Cyrodiil campaign where all classes will have PvP specific and more performant skills that replace the standard player skills with the expectations that we can support more players per campaign. So they are trying to introduce standardized skills for PvP, which I think is very odd. I don't know. I don't know what to think of this. It seems very odd to me. And here goes the next one. Increasing the difficulty of standard overworld combat. Wow, finally we get that. Okay, here's my thoughts. In Lord of the Rings Online, there is this, I don't know how they call it there. Is it like a champions system? I don't know how it's called, but you can essentially decide how hard you want your Overland content to be. So there's like, I think there's 10 or 12 levels that make the Overland content harder, and you get a little more XP, I believe, and some other stuff, and achievements and stuff like this. So I am curious if they want to increase the difficulty flat out, like they just make everything 50% more HP and hit harder or something like this. Or if there will be, if this will just concern new zones that they release, if they will not release that into old zones, which would kind of skew their philosophy of this vertical progression, that basically every zone is kind of the same difficulty. So everywhere you go, it is essentially a challenge, quote unquote. But that's just the philosophy. The reality is a bit different, especially with like world bosses and stuff. Or if they go this Lord of the Rings Online route and make it possible for people to choose what kind of difficulty they want. Because I'm thinking, if I want to put it in a negative light or think about it in a negative way, right now you can basically grind out experience from mobs very efficiently. You can find very decent grinding spots that give experience. And this is a way you can boost your champion points quite easily. And if they decide to make everything flat out harder, or I mean, hard is also something that is a bit, some people consider a lot of HP and hits hard to be hard, but I guess that's all you can expect from an MMO. But when they do that, then that would also mean that grinding is slower and leveling is slower. So when they do that, we really have to put an eye on this, how they are going to implement this, because if they implement it in a way that just makes leveling harder, you are basically, you should be interested in leveling before that change. So yeah, I'm curious to see where this one is going. Improving the overall feel of combat with animation, FX, and potentially audio work. Yeah, definitely. This is basically the core of the game that has been criticized out of the ESO community. Every time I read about ESO, that people don't get into the combat system, that the combat system is dull with the weaving and stuff and button smashing. Personally, I don't think it's that bad, but then again, I'm playing a caster that is not really button smashing that much. So, but I think when you have a core combat that feels good, I mean, they won't get a Black Desert combat feeling, but getting the core to be fun is an amazing thing to achieve if they manage to do that. Experimenting with more zones like Craglawn, although not as large in area or scope, created exclusively for high-end group and soft group content with associated gear chase. Very interesting. I find that also a very good idea, to have Overland content that is hard and for groups and that has a special reward tied to it. I think ESO is completely missing that for now, aside from obviously the instance contents like trials and dungeons. adding and refining tools to make guild recruitment, interaction, and management easier and more logical. And we have many more ideas here, and of course we are listening to you and will be coming up with new ideas based on your feedback. Concentrating on new and returning user experience. It is long past time that we address ESO's new and returning user experience. The game is so large at this point that we need to refine the new user experience. Agreed? Our goal is to shield new players from being overwhelmed by dozens of content options presented to them on entering the world, and instead give them the essential guidance they need to enjoy the game before opening it up to all possibilities. This is a very good idea. This is a very, very good idea, because as it stands, even MMO veterans, such as myself, I would call it, when first starting into this game, I needed like a few weeks to get an understanding of what matters, what doesn't matter, and how the game works and stuff like this. And I've played MMORPGs like, I don't know, for 14 years now, I think. Yeah, something around this. So this is especially, and then there's people who don't play games much, you know. There's just like some people who play Skyrim and want to get a look at this, and they are completely overwhelmed with everything that is happening. And that is something that I should have done a long time ago, in my opinion. So at least better late than never, I suppose. But I'm curious to see how this one's turning out. Additionally, we have many millions of players who return to the game every year after taking months to years off. And it is often confusing to them what they should be doing. We need to address this by making sure that the game's map and other quest informational UI areas clearly show the user where they were when they left, and what has been added since then, and where they will find content they will love. Here are just a few of the items planned to improve the new and returning user experience. Some of these will launch in 2025, some afterwards. A new patcher with improved visuals and performance, PC only, okay. So that's basically the launcher, I'm assuming. So yeah, that is a change, I guess. One of the changes of all time. Returning to the original Wailing Prison tutorial area for all new players. This has already launched, but we will be regularly tweaking it to improve the experience. Visually improving base game zones with updated textures and art assets, starting with these starter islands. These should start rolling out in March 2025. So this is the first thing we are getting in 2025. This is the first new content we will be getting to the live service with starter islands. They obviously are referring to Betnik, Strosmikai, and it should be Bleak Rock Isle. These three starter islands, at least those three islands, and they are part of the base game, so that these should be the starter islands in my thinking. So we can expect them to be reworked, at least visually, in March of 2025. I'm very curious about this. Not showing new players prologue quests or chapter quest compass pins. The jury is still out on how Stuga will feel about this. Sprucing up the game's PC UI, which is long overdue for a modern visual upgrade. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And not just that, but also the UI interacting with itself. For instance, when you open the map, you can't open anything else without closing the map beforehand. When you are in a Tales of Tribute match and you want to check your inventory very fast, you can't do that because it will just quit the game for you. So make a UI that is interactable with one another would be very great. Also, like when you open a coffer in your inventory always closes down, your character moves to watch you, and then you see the coffer opening. It should all be in the inventory. I don't know, I think that is long overdue. Other map and UI systems, still in design idea stage, to make returning to the game more seamless and get you back into the action quickly. Continuing to tell great stories. With the changes to our content release model, please be assured that we are not abandoning new quest content, but we will do it in different ways than we previously have, as our focus will not be on adding giant new land masses, although we will do that from time to time. Instead, we will use existing zones and areas to tell new stories. Some of these are continuing the stories in existing zones and storylines and bringing back familiar characters. Please don't let it be Gnosis Dren. New stories focused on Hallmark Elder Scrolls organizations like Dark Brotherhood, Thieves Guild, Fighters Guild, and Mages Guild. I think that's a good idea. Because the way this game works is that every zone is kind of relevant, and having new content in those zones that expand on the experience you've been having in this zone is, in my opinion, a good idea. Makes the world feel even more alive, makes people interested in revisiting zones. The inner monk in me is like, but I have 100%ed that zone already, I don't want to return to that. But yeah, I guess that's a compromise I have to take. Splitting a large zone across multiple updates. Yeah, curious to see how they are going to do this. We are embarking on these changes to give the development team this space to find a new cadence that can mix new content and systems with addressing feedback, fixing issues, and adding new quests and activities to existing zones and stories. It will not be as regular as the old annual cadence. So this is telling. It will not be as regular as the old annual cadence. So expect season launches and new content systems and test announcements throughout the year, not necessarily in January as we have done since 2017. So this is telling. This is basically also confirming the thing I've been fearing before. We will not get as much content in 2025. And even 2024 has been a letdown for many people because the annual cadence that they have shifted to from the two biannual cadence was just the other way around. Annual cadence to biannual cadence basically didn't mean more content; it just meant the same content in more time. So this is also interesting because usually we see the announcement for the new chapter in January. We will not see that this time. We will see the chapter announcement in April, most likely. This is what they've been hinting at. So we are kind of left in a content drought right now until March. Speaking of, to give everyone a heads up, our next big announcement event will be in April 2025 as we introduce our first season. There will be much more in the April announcement, but for that you will have to wait. We still have a content update in March 2025. That's kind of obvious that this will be the zone overhaul for the starter islands. On PTS as normal in January, so we kind of get content in January, but it will just be the visual upgrade for the starter islands. This is what I'm assuming. And we will give you more information about that sometime early in the next year. You have already heard the news that we will not be doing a 2025 North American community event as we originally planned it. This was a difficult decision, but as shown by all the planning and development changes listed here, we need to focus on the game itself for a while this year. That said, we will still see you at the local community events in many territories, so stay tuned for announcement and details on these. And finally, my thanks to all of you. Thank you so much for being part of the wonderful community that makes up this amazing online virtual world. As I have said many times before, we would not be here without you. You all have navigated many changes throughout the years and have given us invaluable feedback that has helped steer our decision making since our beta program started in 2013. Have a wonderful holiday and see you in Tamriel. Matt. Alright, this is the end of the year message from the ESO team, or from Matt in this instance. I have given you my thoughts on this on the go already. I'm curious to see what you think. Are you one of the people that is a bit of on the doomerism side of this? Are you very negative about this? Maybe a little cynic, or just generally skeptic? What do you think is the biggest letdown in this announcement? But I'm also curious if there's something in here that you are curious about, that you're looking forward to. I'm assuming many people will look forward to Cyrodiil changes, and increasing difficulty of standard overworld content seems nice as well, the combat. So basically all of these changes they have been announcing here are something that are interesting to me, maybe aside from Cyrodiil. But I'm happy for the PvP players out there. So yeah, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to see what you think. Other than that, there should be a Tales of Tribute video coming sometime this week. So yeah, other than that, I hope you have a great day. I hope you have an awesome day. You take care of yourself, and I see you next time.